think of summer. When I think of summer, I think of baseball. I think of going to Yankee Stadium with a book of green stamps and getting into the park. I think of saving lids to Hood ice cream and getting into Shea Stadium. And I start to talk to people who are baseball fans and historians. And I've got one for you here. A gentleman I have yet to meet, but one I'd like to meet. His name is Butch Haber. And Butch, how are you? Where are you? Tell us about Butch Haber.
Well, thank you for having me, of course. You know, love sports and everything. Of course, right now I'm home. Just got upstairs. I was done, Mark, from, moving my car, warming my car up because, if you don't warm up your car, you'll have a dead engine. This weather is murder on everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But,
and I apologize. I mispronounced your name. It's Haber.
No, it's Haber, Haber.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just Butch, yeah. So I'm here. Anything you want to ask me, I'll do it.
And you, where do you live?
I live in Brooklyn, New York.
As Ed Norton said, the garden spot of the universe.
Well, I know it's the city of churches and stuff like that, and of course, we love our sports here and everything.
Yeah.
I just turned 64 years old about a month ago, as you know, Tony, and born in Brooklyn, live in Brooklyn, and probably die in Brooklyn. But, what can you do, But, as I said, it's really great. And, well, I guess if you want to know about myself, you mean about sports-wise.
Yeah, what got you interested in being in baseball and being a sports historian?
Well, as I said, when I was born, of course, in 1953, February 16th, as I said, I just had my 64th birthday.
Oh, God bless you, it's great.
And, yeah, thanks, I'm trying to still be alive here. And the thing is that when my step-grandfather and my two uncles, my two uncles were big guys, they were like 6'5", about 300 pounds and everything, and they loved sports, and so they got me into it, and of course they were big Yankee fans, but as I said on your show and the other shows, the Boone McCartney shows, all the shows I've been on, Roger Maris, 61 and 61, towards the end of it, I started, and then my first full year, I wanted my own identity, Tony, so what did I do? Naturally, I became an Met fan, an original Met fan, obviously, in 1962, and one of my favorite players, in those days you didn't have to be a superstar, I knew I couldn't hit, so I figured I knew the game, maybe I would catch, I got some catching equipment, and I liked a guy by the name of Chris Cannizzaro, which shows the only way he'll get into the Hall of Fame, of course, is by buying a ticket. And then later on, I liked the pitcher, Dick Selma. And then so I was a Mets fan for all the losing and everything. And I got a little tired of it. So what I did is, around middle of like 67, I became an Oriole fan for a while there, and I still have, I'm not a collector, like I said, I'm a historian. I just use, the books, like I said, Tony, you come to my house, I have registers, guides, all that stuff, but I'm not really a collector. Like I said, I'm a historian, so I can look up, statistics and look up, career records, et cetera, So then, as I said, I have about my 3 Oriole yearbooks I still have left, and of course, then in the middle 1969, I became an original Montreal Expo fan. I was very impressed with them, Jerry Park and the colorful uniform and the hat and everything. Mm-hmm. And I have a 1971 Montreal yearbook and everything. And to this very day, Tony, I've been a Montreal Expo fan / Washington Nationals to this very day. I went with them, I followed them to Washington, and now we have some good teams, and the city of Washington does deserve some good teams. Some people even say, Tony, that instead of I have to worry about going to Montreal 450 miles, I could go 250 miles if I ever get a chance to go to Nationals Park. But I never been on an airplane, and I'm like John Madden or Gump Worsley, the old hockey. I'm not, or Jackie Jensen, the old, one Boston Red Sox player. I never been on an airplane, and I'm not too crazy about flying, so I don't want to go on no airplanes,
Wow.
I'll bus, a train, I'll drive, or whatever, rent the car, whatever, if I don't use my own car, but I'm not too crazy about that. But like I said, so basically, not too many, as I said, real winners, though. We're hoping that the Nationals could get past, every other year we can get past the, the first round or second round, and, maybe just get into the World Series. I don't care if we win it or not. It would just be nice just to get into a, to a World Series,
Well, you mentioned the Nationals, and
Yeah.
I've always thought, this is just me, my opinion, that Davey Johnson, to me, never really got the historical credit that I felt he deserved in being a manager. I thought he did some fine work with the Nationals. What was your impression of him?
Yeah, in fact, he did, and I'll even take it a step further. I was sad, on a talk show up here at WFAN, Ed Randall's talk show. I remember, we spoke to Charlie Sauls, Dave Jaggler, guys like that, and I called him and I said, gee, it's a shame that they were giving Frank Robinson the boot, also.
Yeah.
So he, like Dave Johnson, you're right, Tony, also didn't get the credit he deserved, but they felt that he's not a youngster neither, and obviously he's not going to, they felt that maybe he's too old, and maybe he's got to be in at least his 80s now, and and he's not going to be around to when they finally do stop winning and everything, and of course, obviously, even though he was a Gold Glove, third baseman, a great player,
He was.
he really didn't do that great. Matt, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Matt here, and Matt, he didn't do so great. And then, I really think, Dusty Baker seems to have it down pat, and he seems to be doing a good job, like I said. And I really think, Mike Rizzo, they even had him on the general manager, and he's done some, he's got some good players and everything, and they really do, just like in the Expo days, they really do have a great farm system. I don't believe in really too much trading. I believe in, bringing them up through the system, AA and AAA, and teaching them how to play. In our case, it's Nationals baseball or Yankee baseball or Met baseball. It's so great, Tony, to see them coming up because, for example, I go here, obviously in Brooklyn, we have a team called the Brooklyn Cyclones.
Right.
Single short season, single A. And, and that's, of course, a Met Farm Club, obviously, I remember that, right? And, and let's say, in other words, you want to see the players come up. And I always use the example, like Scotty Kazmir came and then they traded him away for Victor Sembrano. Of course, Victor Sembrano got hurt, yada, 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 et cetera. And Scotty Kazmir had some moderate success. But the thing is, whether he had success or not, the thing is, you see him, you want to see them, you go to see them in the minor leagues, someday, hey, they're going to be, coming up.
Yeah, I hope
and
to see
all
them
of
at
a
the
sudden,
big
you
club,
follow
yeah.
them, say, Double A, Triple A, and then they get to the big club, Shea Stadium is what, stone's throw away from Brooklyn here, Queens, now of course it's, obviously City Field,
Right.
And, and then, you wait, and then all of a sudden they're not there. It's kind of like, a radio station there too. You get used to a guy, let's say, like on WFAN, let's say, and then a month later or so he does the, the updates, and then he gets his own show, and then he goes out of town or whatever. And like he's getting his feet wet, you're getting used to him. And then you don't get to see them. You want to see the fruits of your labor, Tony. You want to see them coming up through the system. And then finally, hey, I knew when, I followed him, and then he finally got to the big club. Let's let the fruit come to bear. Bear, I think is what I'm trying to say, Tony.
Well, it's funny. Two thoughts just, and I've had one of these marches that's been, like a Seaver fastball. Just like, here I am sitting at the 16th, and I'm just wondering with everything that's happened with the weather in my life, with work, with the show, with this, with that. I kind of wonder, how I got here speaking to you, but yet I'm so happy that I am. Two things flash in my mind. Going back to the Yankees in the 1950s, two local stories, somewhat local, which I'm kind of familiar with. There was a gentleman who was the shortstop of Harvard by the name of Dick Tettelbach. Played in 55, 56. The only reason I know him is I hung around New Haven for a lot of years, and he was a very popular guy, a golfer, and an ex-New York Yankee. You could look him up. He played like 2 or 3 games. Behind Rizzuto, and you're not going to go anywhere. And there was another fella, Zeke Bella, who was an outfielder catcher in the Yankee organization. And I mean, it's a much longer story, which I'll tell you offline at some point, but
Yeah.
couldn't go anywhere in that organization because you had Howard and you had Barra and you had Blanchard. It's like, you might as well not even show
Right.
up.
Oh, I agree with you, Tony. I'll tell you, that's why even what's his name, Charlie Severa,
Yeah.
didn't get much of a chance. Just like Art Jorgensen years ago didn't get much of a chance for Bill Dickey.
Right.
You're right. The name Dick Talbot does sound familiar, and of course Zeke Bella, yeah. But well, I can joke around here, Tony, and I can say if he doesn't have a Stratomatic card, he didn't play that much. I mean, because everybody asks me, Tony, you're probably going to ask me too. You do it too, right? You play Stratomatic also.
Oh, many, many years ago. But I'll tell you, I don't have as much vivid recollections of Stratomatic as I do Challenge the Yankees.
Yeah, I heard that game, but I never played that one.
Oh, it's hysterical. I mean, you ought to just look it up, Butch. It was paper cards, you rolled dice, and it was all probabilities. Like Mickey Mantle's card was 1 home run, 2 strikeout, 3 triple, 4 strikeout, 5 strikeout, 6 triple, 7 double. I mean, it was...
Yeah. Well, you know what I always say, Tony, and when I went recently, I go, I go to pick up, the Stratomatic cards and everything and see the guys out there. They even have, around near the bathroom, as I went to the bathroom, they copied something from my Facebook page where I said that there is nothing like Stratomatic. Are you as good as Stratomatic? Reply if you have the guts. I don't know if you ever saw that one. I saved it. Yeah, because I really feel, I feel, not to put anybody down, Tony, but it's like there is Stratomatic and there's everything else, I mean, I played the thing that, years ago that had that, of course, the creator Stratomatic, Hal Richmond played, if you know his story. And it's true with the spinners and everything, that Ethan Allen's All-Star Baseball. And, of course, besides having a furniture store and, being a World War, Revolutionary War soldier or something like that escapes me. It used to be history. Ethan Allen was, he coached, I believe, at Yale, University. And he was a lifetime 300 hitter.
Yes.
In the 30s in the National League. And it's true, the spinners will wear down. And it didn't have anything from a pitcher's point of view or a fielder's point of view. So, in other words, Sandy Koufax, let's say, could be a great pitcher, but you just put his disc in, but he wouldn't help you as a hitter. You know what I'm trying to say? It was just from one point, one perspective. And of course, Stratomatic encompasses the base running, the fielding, the throwing arm,
Right.
the hit for power, the hit for average, the strikeouts, the walks. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it's the next best thing to what you're doing in real life. Because unfortunately, Tony, how many of us could really have talent to play Major League Baseball or even minor league baseball, and how many of us could get the chance to to manage in the major leagues? I mean, I think you have a better chance, Tony, of being president of the United States.
Well, these days especially, Butch, I fully agree with you. Yes. But I'll tell you, I mean, it's well, you mentioned baseball managers, and a couple of weeks from now we'll have on Marty Appel, who's Marty's been great to us since we've
Tony,
been.
I met him. Let me say, Tony, I met him in person at the the Society of American Baseball. The regional, our regional chapters that we have like in February. But I haven't even gone the last 2 or 3 years. To run into the city, and it's not really worth it. But I met Marty Appel, and he wrote books and everything. I met him 3 or 4 times. He's a heck of a nice guy. Believe me, I love him. And like I said, and I talked about the Thurman Munson situation, everything. About Carl Fisk and them. They like each other, and just a whole bunch of things. And he's he's really he's a regular guy, and everybody liked him. And I said he smiles, he laughs, and he's really very easy to talk to. I think you'll enjoy him, and he's a fine human being, as you yourself are.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That definitely puts you in a minority, but I appreciate it nonetheless, Butch. But anyway,
Marty Appel's really a heck of a nice guy. You'll like him.
He really is, and he's written a new book, which I imagine will be out very soon, on Casey Stengel, and has really gotten into the. I'm going to call it the. I have an advanced copy that I'm reading a little at a time. Really gotten into Stengel's DNA. Man, he was a fascinating character. I never realized it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Casey Stengel was, Casey Stengel was really something,
Yeah.
He knew his baseball, and like Bobby Richardson once said on the Yankeeography, he he wasn't a monster, but like winning came first. Your feelings came second. He would say, "We're here to win." You know what I'm saying? So he would bring out the best of you, but maybe not in the way you would like it. But sometimes, those so-called strict teachers are the ones you like. I remember when I took my swimming test, he used to say, you want to make sure you really swim well and pass your deep water test. And he said, you don't just do it by going home and getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
You got to really practice and this and that. And of course, Casey's record bears it out. Of course, just like any human being or any manager, Tony, you have to have the horses. I mean, with the Yankees, he had the horses. Obviously, with the Mets, he did. Yeah. I think when you lose 120 games, obviously you're not doing too well.
Well,
but he was a great manager, and he was a very good player too. He's very underrated. A lot of them. Billy Martin wasn't a bad player. Joe Torre was a very, a lot of people say borderline Hall of Famer. Would have won more Gold Gloves as a catcher.
Thank you for saying that, because I've
36
always
home
felt
runs,
that.
Batting titles, MVP. So he's not so bad himself.
Well, one year, one of the things Marty points out in the book, I can't tell you the exact year, but Casey Stengel in 1 year used 105 different lineups.
That could be 1949.
Yeah,
First year, because he had to really, use that platoon system that I learned under John McGraw, because that was really, he had really about 70 altogether. So many disabling injuries and everything, and he had to mix and match.
And he was a fanatical platoon player, and I remember Jerry Coleman saying that he was scheduled to hit eighth in a game, and many times he never got to bat. He was pinch hit for, and I mean...
Yeah, Phil Rizzuto also. Yeah. At the beginning of the game, Cleat Boy, he did it too. I know he drove Gene Woodling and Hank Bauer crazy with the platooning, with the lefty-righty, because Gene Woodling was a very good hitter. Was a left-handed, batter, and Hank Bauer, of course, later on managed the Orioles, a tough ex-Marine, was a right-handed batter and a very good player. And then later on, of course, a very good manager with, of course, the Orioles, and later on Kansas City, et cetera, et cetera. And he drove him crazy. There were times they wanted to hang him, but they admitted afterwards that they had better careers with what Casey did. And of course, the organization itself, they always knew how to get players. They could always get, I say, 3 Johns and an Enos, Tony, because they would get, let's say, like they would pick up a Johnny Mize, at the end of 49, use him as a pinch hitter in the later part of his career. They pick up a Johnny Sane for Lou Burdett, though Lou Burdett in 1957 beat him with 3 straight complete games.
Right.
Of course, he came back to haunt them, but you have to give up something to get something, And so they got, of course, Johnny Sane, and then they got Johnny Hop, and then they got Slaughter twice,
They got Ian Slaughter.
And and he left the Cardinals. He cried, of course, because all his friends with Stan Musial and all those guys, But then he and Terry Moore, et cetera. But then Monty Marion, all those guys, he left them. But then he came in the year after I was born, and then '54. And then he came and he got in a couple more World Series, and he went to Kansas City, and then they brought him back, and Phil Rizzuto got mad because he was even older than him. But, Phil Rizzuto didn't carry a grudge about that, But it's true, they were, obviously a fine organization, et cetera, But Yankee fans sometimes are spoiled if they don't win every year, New York, whereas me, like I said, I'm just satisfied, like I said, that we, Nat Washington now, we get to the playoffs, and hey, if we can get into a World Series, I'd be satisfied. It doesn't have to be every year. I just like to, get some champagne, as they say, even though I don't drink.
You think Washington's a good baseball town?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They sell out. They're doing very well now and everything. Like I said, I have a hat. I want to try to get a jersey, But the store here in Brooklyn where I was to get the jersey, a guy, he owns a store called Sport Fever, and he went to Lafayette High School, and of course there are about 15 major leaguers who went to that school.
Right.
Upland went to my high school, Tilden High School, yeah. And the thing is, but he never got the jersey. I think 7,500, whatever it is, I would get it, I guess a home jersey with the curly W. I have the hat and everything, and I would love to get it. But for some reason, it's hard. Cubs, Cubs are world champions now. But sometimes, maybe it's a little hard to get some Montreal Montreal in those days too, or Washington Nationals memorabilia. And I'm not going to run down just for a jersey to Washington, 250 miles. So I like to get it. And also, like I said, baseball, of course. Also, I think you do too, if I can mention. I'll even talk to you about other sports if you want. I love other sports too, you know that.
Wow, were you following the New York Giants back in the days of Y.A. Tittle and Greer and Andy Robustelli from my hometown of Stamford, Connecticut?
Oh, yes, I know he's from Stamford. I love going to Stamford, and I love going to Greenwich, It's really great there. No, they have the concerts there and everything.
Great.
And they eat in the diners there and everything. Bobby
Yeah.
Valentine has
Me too.
he has a pub there right on Main Street. In fact, I was standing in the elevator with him, and I should have spoke to him in the the government center there on
Right. Yes.
Tessier Boulevard on Washington Boulevard there,
Yes.
and I went to his place in 2001. I saw at that time was Mike and the Mad Dog. He had a place here too, and then he said, after the interview, he said, the drinks are on me. So I had a Diet Coke, But, right near Shea Stadium, he has another pub there and everything. So he is the pride of Stamford, of course.
So, yeah,
it's fantastic, yeah. But what you said about football, I must say this, Tony, believe it or not, I love it. I was different. I was a Giant fan. I was a Boston Patriot fan because I was an old AFL guy. Because I love those old AFL shootouts. In football, I love, when both teams combined for 100 points. I love those old AFL shootouts, that. So I was an AFL guy myself,
Well, I'm a huge Ernie Ladd fan, just so you know.
Oh, I remember Ernie Ladd. He was really, he was a great showman. That's why he was good in wrestling,
The best interview
he
ever.
Really was very
ever.
agile, yes. Oh, yeah. You're right, Tony. He was, for a big man, he could really move, He reminded me kind of Doug Atkins of the Chicago Bears.
Yes.
Doug Atkins, the Hall of Famer, Ernie Ladd wasn't. Ernie Ladd, may he rest in peace, was a very good player in wrestling. In fact, he tells the story. Sam DeLuca, who used to play for the Jets, I met him. He went to Lafayette High School also. And I met him in 1985, because he was doing the Jet color games, and now he passed away and everything. He lived up in Peekskill, New York. And it's true, Tony, he said that in practice, because, Sam DeLuca was with the San Diego Chargers,
right.
the world champ, the 1960 Chargers. They beat our Patriots like 51-10. and Ernie Ladd would play defensive tackle and defensive end, and Sam DeLuca was a guard. And he would have to block him in practice, and oh my God, he said, Ernie Ladd, what was a tough customer, what I'm saying? Hey, you're 6'9", 315 pounds. That's not exactly lightweight.
No, and back then the players weren't nearly as big, but what a great, as far as being a heel in wrestling, he'd come in with the crown and the cigar, and he was, all I could say to the kids is, you want to see a good wrestling interview, you got to watch an Ernie Ladd on YouTube. The best.
Yeah, he was really something. He jumped off that top rope, and oh my God, he was really something. Sometimes he would team up, and and he would fight Bruno and all those guys, and the big cat, Ernie Ladd, and then he was with Kansas City later on in his career. He originally started out with San Diego, but then he went to Houston.
Yes. And
he went to and he was of course an old AFL guy. There were 20 guys who were original AFL guys. They started with the AFL. Maybe they took a year off for injury, but then they finished with the AFL. And the old days, we talk about, Tony, how different it is, because you're a Facebook friend of mine too, I believe. And how it was like in the old days, quarterbacking is like pitching. It's 80%, and of course, you need a good quarterback to win. But it's funny, Tony, years ago, they didn't have, and Johnny Unitas is the greatest quarterback I ever saw. He's my guy. I don't think there'll ever be, with all due respect to Tom Brady's, and of course you go back to Joe Montana's, nobody's like Johnny Unitas. Sonny Jurgensen could throw the length of a football field, of course.
Yeah, he could really
Johnny
fling
Unitas
the
had
ball.
a great arm. He do, as I say, he could read defenses like anything, had to call his own plays and everything. A heck of a nice guy, a heck of a good role model and everything. And he was a great guy. But the thing is, in those days, Tony, you didn't need, for example, you could win in those days, let's say, with guys like, let's say, a Tobin Road, believe it or not, or you can win, let's say, with a Milk Plum. And then towards the end of his career, he came to Giants. He faded in the late 60s, but he admitted that in those days you ran 2 out of 3 times, et cetera, and you had Hall of Fame running back, so the pressure wasn't on. But like I said, guys like Milk Plum, Earl Morrall, Norm Snead, guys like that, Billy Wade with the 1963 Chicago Bears. Oh, they had some defense, some team. And then you had Frank Ryan, but of course he had Jimmy Brown to hand the ball off to 2, et cetera. And, like I said, no, you didn't have to be, like you could be like a Babe Parilli for my Boston Patriots. You could be a
Vito.
Jackie Kemp. 6 out of his first 7 years with San Diego. Then they tried to hide him in injuries, and then the Buffalo Bills took him, and then he played against his old team in 64 and 65, and he won championships. And he was a very good quarterback. He drove the bus, as they say. Got in the playoffs 6 of his first 7 years. So maybe he could he could be in the Hall of Fame someday. I'd like to see Boomer Esiason get in the Hall of Fame because he's fantastic.
Oh yeah, he really.
But again, like you say, it's true. There, you didn't have to have that superstar mentality. Whereas, like I said, in my day, you could root for Chris Canizaro or Dick Selma. Or then the Orioles, I didn't really have any favorites. I loved them all. Of course, Brooks Robinson and everything. And that great bullpen they had, Eddie Watt, Pete Rickett, Mo Drabowski, and of course the starting staff, Mike Cuellar, Jim Palmer, et cetera,
Believe it or not, we're out of time. We're going to have you back for sure, Butch. And where we're going to open the discussion is we're going to talk about the old Baltimore Orioles Kangaroo Court.
That with Frank Robinson having the yearbook right, and we keep talking about roller derby too. I love the roller derby. Now, just say before we go, my Montreal Expo. Well, Bill Stoneman was my favorite player, I guess.
Yeah. I like Warren Cromartie myself. Listen, my friend, we're out of time. You take care. We know we can find you on Facebook, and if we can't find you, we'll come look for you. Thanks so much, and say hi to everybody out there, and we're going to love to produce this interview. Thanks so much, Butch.
Thanks. Come to visit me in Brooklyn. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye now. Oh, that was a lot of fun. That was Butch Haber, and he's going to have me thinking about Joni Weston all night on roller derby. Anyway, we're going to come right back to you to wind out here on this wild Tony Angelo's PM Coast to Coast show.
It's not the pale moon that excites me, that